Everybody, this is Kim.
Hey, this is Steven.
And this is Thompson's Reading. Well, guess what? We're going to do something today that we have never done before. We've been on Booktube for a few months, but we've never done the Booktube Newbie Tag. So we're going to do that today.
Very cool. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. So,
I don't know any of the Booktube newbie questions, so this is fresh for me.
All right. Well, I went on some Booktubes. Hold on. I'm trying to find my screenshot the questions. And we'll put the questions down in the description box. That way, if anybody is inspired to start a Booktube channel, and you want to do the Booktube Newbie Tag, all the questions will be in the description box below. All right, so I'm probably going to qualify some of these, FYI, just to make sure we are able to really answer them. I haven't looked at all of them, but let's just get started. So I'll toss it out there, you can answer, and then I'll answer, okay?
All right.
All right, so the first question is, why did you start this channel? And the caveat being, you can talk about why you started the channel and then why Booktube, because you had your channel long before you started Booktube.
Well, I think I started Booktube channel really at your suggestion, because I've published two books and I'm working on a third, and Kim suggested that by doing a Booktube channel that would help find readers for my novels. And I also am a voracious reader. I read a ton, and we watched some Booktube channels together, and we just decided, hey, it might be fun for us to do a Booktube channel together, because she creates content on her channel, I create content on this channel, but it's been more of educational content and content around my doctoral dissertation, and also like my personal podcast. So this is something that we're doing together for content creation. So that's fun too, for both of us to do something together.
Yeah, so I wanted to do Booktube, but like you said, I thought it would be good for Steve, as he is trying to build an audience around his own novels, that he could get involved in the reading and book community on YouTube. I have been watching Booktube for many, many years. I thoroughly enjoy watching quite a few different Booktube content creators, and I wanted to jump in, but my main content is about and around craftiness. I'm the Crafty Nomad. My channel will be linked. It's always linked. And so I didn't want to like muddy the water, so to speak. I wanted to do it. So that's why I was excited to do this Booktube. And also doing something together is good. All right, so the next one is, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to Booktube?
Well, I think for me is that I am an eclectic reader. I like to read all sorts of books. I like to read fiction. I like to read nonfiction. I like to read new authors. I will just go to the bookstore and just kind of look around, and whatever jumps out catches my eye. I enjoy reading recommendations from other people. I enjoy reading recommendations from like Barack Obama and Bill Gates. And I also enjoy reading classic authors like James Baldwin and Toni Morrison and Langston Hughes, as well as modern authors. So I have a wide range of reading. I'm very eclectic, and I think that's what makes me unique. I'm not truly focused on one thing, and I won't be like, oh, it's YA or nothing, or I am a fantasy reader and that's all I do. I really am just a person who loves reading, and curiosity drives my reading, and I think I get to enjoy a wide variety of books and experiences by reading like that.
Yeah, I also think that what we bring that's fun and unique would be, unique is that there are not a ton of 50 plus booktubers. And I know that when I was looking at Booktube channels, a lot of the content creators are very young, and I literally would be searching for 50 plus Booktube content creators, because I just wanted to see what they were reading. And I enjoy the younger folks too, but I think the fact that we are not, we don't stick to one genre, we don't read the TikTok books necessarily. I mean, sometimes I might end up reading a TikTok book, but there are some books out there and a lot of booktube channels that really talk about whatever everybody else is kind of talking about, which makes sense because that's what people are interested in. However, we do lots of different kinds of reading. The fun things that we bring is content around going to bookstores, going to library sales, and hopefully a little more fun things as we try to come up with things. But that's what I can think of as well. All right, next. What are you most excited about? Or no, what are you most excited for about doing booktube?
I think for me is finishing books. Already, doing the booktube is helping me finish books. I like to go to the library, grab a whole bunch of books, start reading like 5 books at a time, and I read a lot. You know, let's say the average book is 250 pages to 300 pages, and I'm reading 5 books. I'll read 100 pages of each of those books. I've read 500 pages, but I haven't finished anything. And then I take the books back to the library, or they sit on my desk, or I go to the bookstore and buy books and they pile up. But being on this channel and doing these 8 episodes has really helped me discipline my reading. And I have just sometimes it's like I just want to get ready for this next episode and have a book to say that I'm finished. But then it brings back the joy of finishing a book and the patience that it takes, and sometimes having to say no. Okay, no, I won't go bring back 5 books from the library, but I'm going to read, this book. So for me, it's that joy again of finishing a book, finishing a story.
That makes sense because, on my crafty channel, because I know I'm going to create content, I actually want to have some projects to share. So that kind of makes sense that would motivate you to want to finish books. I think I'm just excited to talk about books. I'm excited to build community around this channel, around Thompson's reading, but also building a community of people who will be interested in reading what you are producing. So I'm excited for all of that. All right. Next question is, why do you love reading?
Oh my gosh, I love reading. That's in my head. It's hard to even say why I love reading because I just love reading. I always remember reading. Reading for me is just peaceful. I mean, I love it. I can't imagine if I ever lost the ability to read or to see, that would be something that that's just damaging. Because I read everything. I read the newspaper, I read magazines, I read books, I read so much. I think reading just allows me, one, I'm curious, I love to learn, and I just love information and facts and finding something neat and being able to read something and to be able to share it with somebody. I love sharing, like reading an article and then being able to talk about it with somebody else, or picking up an interesting fact, or being on top of what's going on in the world, or learning about a new concept. And sometimes reading will drive me into more reading. I just loved, like today, going to church, and I was talking about, hey, I just finished this book. And then I got that book because I was reading another book, and this is what the author quoted. So I really enjoy looking at author's notes, like what inspires the author, and then I'll go back and read another book by it. And it's just the exploration. It's almost like finding a treasure. There's a treasure in the book, and then there's more treasures that send you on more adventures when you read a book. And then there's so many positive memories I have associated with reading books. I remember the summer times when I was a kid, walking to the library and then going back home and sitting in the backyard and reading. There's memories of college. There's memories of bookstores that I would go to. There's trips that we've taken as a couple where we've gone to bookstores, and I remember sitting in a bookstore and reading a book. Those sorts of things excite me about reading.
I love story. So I also love the self-help stuff. I love learning as well. So I like reading to learn. I have always felt like I can learn anything from a book. I taught myself how to crochet and knit from a book. I learned pre-YouTube, so there were not tutorials. So I've just always felt if I can get my hands on a book, I can teach myself how to do something that I'm interested in. And that could be, like I said, it could be crafting, it could be cooking. But so that's one aspect of why I love reading. I love a good story. I love a good story. I love beautiful lyrical writing. I also love the quick and easy reads as well. And I love discovering authors that I love. So this year I have discovered how much I enjoy Friedrich Bachman's writing, and so I am just gonna go through his entire catalog. I love being able to do that. I also love discovering series. I can't say that so far that I've discovered a series that I have loved, but I used to. I used to be, believe it or not, so heavy into Debbie Macomber. And it makes sense why I love Hallmark movies. They've made plenty of her books into Hallmark movies, but they were lightweight, they were potato chippy. But what I really loved is that she would place her characters in a small town and then write about that entire town. And there's another series that I really, really love by, I think her name is Jan Karen. It was the Mitford series, and it was set in a small town and set around the main character who was the vicar in the town, and all the hijinks and the crazy characters. I love that kind of thing. I love seeing the world building. I just love great storytelling, and so that's what I love learning, and I love great storytelling, and I love discovering authors that I fall in love with. So that's why I love reading. Okay, what books or series got you into reading?
Wow, I think like for me, when I was younger, I would read Beverly Cleary books. I loved like the Ramona series, the Henry Huggins series. I love those books. But on the flip side, I love Stephen King books. So I am in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, and I'm reading Firestarter, I'm reading Cujo. You know, these are books that I probably shouldn't have been checking out of the library or being exposed to. I remember my 5th grade teacher saying to me when I talked about Firestarter in class, and he was like, when you're an adult, you're going to be reading kid books, when you should be reading them now. And so I remembered that. I still remember that. But I would get a Stephen King book every time it came out. And and there's a bond even today where I will just go read a new Stephen King book, and I'll think back to like I have this connection between Stephen King when I was a kid and Stephen King now that I'm an adult. And there's that through line. And that really got me into reading. And then I can there are books that I can think of that I read as a child that I would go back to. And I love to be able to go back to them now as an adult. And I really think that those Beverly Cleary books, Stephen King books, Encyclopedia Brown books I used to read. I would just go and get those Encyclopedia Browns, the Choose Your Own Mystery books, the Choose Your Own Adventure, where it was like, go to page 5 and you will go off in a spaceship, or go to page 15 and you will stay on Earth. And then years later, I read an article about the author of those Choose Your Own Adventure books and his whole entire journey. Those were fascinating. And the Narnia series. When I was a kid, it wasn't just The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe that I read, but I started reading all of those C.S. Lewis books. And then when I got to college, C.S. Lewis was a theologian. It was like, well, I didn't know anything about that. I didn't know Mere Christianity. I'm like, this is the guy who wrote Narnia? He's a theologian? What? And that was just mind-blowing. And learning that, like, Lord of the Rings was Tolkien, there's all this spirituality going into it.
Connection between the two authors, right?
Yeah, so those are the things that, like, it's a whole world that's kind of unveiled as a reader.
Yeah, for me, what got me into reading? Well, I can't say I read the Beverly Clearys or any of those things, because I did not like to read when I was younger. I always loved books. So you know how you have the Scholastic books and you can order them. I always wanted to order the new books. I got my parents to sign me up for to get these books in the mail. I did all those things, but I did not really like to read, just because I'm a slower reader. Naturally, what saved me in school is that I comprehended very well, but I'm always, even on standardized tests, I would not get through the portion that you had to read before you. It would take me so long to get through the portion that you had to read. So I was slow, and I would never have the. I would just never finish a book. Well, I checked out this book in the 5th grade. I remember this, and I checked out this book in the 5th grade. Started it, had it all year, and sorry, I was getting a phone call. Sorry, had it all year, never finished it. So then when I came back, and then I had to turn it in because it was from the school library. So then I had to turn it back in. And so when I came back to 6th grade, I checked that book out again, and I finished the book. And the joy of knowing the whole story. After that is when I started reading books. So I ended up, and the name of the book was Shoe Fly Girl. And I forgot who the author was, but it's like you can't even find a copy of that book anywhere nowadays. But yes, Shoe Fly Girl was the name of the book. Then I went on to read Strawberry Girl by the same author. And then I ended up reading the Little House series. Later on, read Little Women, and those are the things. But really, it was that Shoe Fly Girl actually finishing that book. That's what got me into reading. All right. What questions would you ask your favorite YouTuber? Should I answer that one?
Yes, you asked me.
Okay.
I don't have a favorite YouTuber, so I'll let you go with that.
You know what? I watch this girl named Kenya. And Kenya is actually a young woman, much younger than me. And yet her taste in books is amazing. And I would like to talk to her about a couple of books that I know that we have both read. Like, I'm currently reading a book called The Marriage Plot. And the guy who wrote this book, he wrote another book that I read with my book club called Middlesex. So I would like to know Kenya's opinion on Middlesex. And then the other booktubers one other booktuber that I like is they're not a couple, they are best friends. Everybody always thinks that they're dating, but they're not. But the name of their channel is called And They Were Readers. We will link both of these channels down below. But I actually would probably just really, I just enjoyed their channel. And they read across a wide range of things. It's a guy and a girl, and the guy's name is John, and I believe her name is Sierra. And I would like to ask them about which of the genres that they read are their favorite, because they read classics. The guy, John, reads romance. He's read Emily Henry. He's read, but he has also read these intensely deep classics. So I just would like to even talk to them about their evolution, because they've not always been readers like this. So anyway, those are my two that I'll mention. But I watch a lot of people. I like Shaughnessy Schroeder. I love her. She's a completely romance girl, and she also reads thrillers. But she's just so personable, and I just enjoy watching. Like I said, most of them are younger than me, but I thoroughly enjoy watching these three that I just mentioned.
I think if I knew a YouTuber, I would really ask about their process. Like, how do you pick books to read? I think for me, this might be a little bit of a rant. Sometimes we always hear, your cover is the most important thing you need in a book. And I totally go the other direction. So think about it practically. When you go to buy a book, you don't really necessarily see all the book covers. You see the spine. And then I pull the book out and I read the back of it. And that's how I pick a book. And covers on books change all the time. So I've never been attracted to a book by its cover. Though you hear in every class all the time, oh, the cover is the most important thing. And I would just want to ask somebody, well, how do you pick a book? Because I don't pick a book by its cover. I don't really care what its cover looks like. But I look at the spine, I look at the author, I read the back of it. If the back of it's interesting, then I'll get it. And I'm not really influenced by reviews. In fact, now I don't even really look at reviews because I've been in all these courses and they talk about, oh, go out and get reviews. So I'm like, well, are these reviewers actually reading the book, or they're on their team? So you're just being a nice person. Like I've done that, where like somebody asked me to write a review for the book. Go on Amazon and write a 5-star review, and I do it. But then I'm like, I didn't really read your book. I don't really wanna, if it stinks, I don't want to give you a 1-star review. So it's really not a legitimate review.
Yeah.
So I don't really trust reviews because I just don't think they're legitimate anymore.
Yeah, and people's taste is so different. Even if it is legitimate, I don't do the review thing even on movies. I just go see what I want to see. I want to read what I want to read. I'm really not somebody. Now I get inspired because when I listen to booktubers, I do. When I hear what they're reading, I'm like, oh, I might want to read that. But yeah, I don't do the review thing either. It's gonna be based on what I feel about it. And I actually do buy books for their cover. Not all the time, but I am one of those people, and I know from being a part of this community and watching YouTube, there are a lot of people who buy based on the cover of the book. And so now what you see happening, is that the publishing companies are actually going the extra mile to put beautiful covers. They're starting to spray the edges of books. So for whatever reason, there is this whole contingency of people who the aesthetics of the actual physical book makes a difference. Not for me, but yeah, that's how that goes. All right, so let me go back over here. Next question. What challenges will be the hardest to overcome in building this booktube?
I think for me is like mentally I sit there and go, nobody's gonna listen to this, or I don't have anything interesting to say, and I'll just be consistent and put out stuff, but is anybody really gonna pay attention to it? And then just kind of like, I'm just gonna put out content and then see what happens. Engaging in the community is challenging sometimes for me, I think, about that. And then also it's like, I have no any idea of how to build a community on YouTube. I can read, I can write, and that's what I hope. That's one of the challenges.
Yeah, that's what I think too. Just building the community, getting connected within the booktube community. For me, I am very much into the crochet community, and I have friends within the crochet community, and I really do think it is about consistency. It's also about participating and interacting with other people's channels as well. But that to me is going to be the hardest, is actually getting dialed into the community to where we're supporting people and they're supporting us. So that's that's really challenging, I think. So that's the challenge. The hardest thing I think is going to be to overcome that. All right, what kind of we talked about this a little bit already. What kind of books do you like to read? We already talked about that. We'd like to read everything, right? We like to read all kinds of things. I can better tell you what I don't like to read. And for me, I'm not someone who is into horror. And other than that, and I'm not way into fantasy, though. I have read some Brandon Sanderson. I have Sarah J. Maas to try out. I have one other fantasy book, but this is not my normal genre. I am really a literary fiction. That's where I lean more towards, but I will try almost everything. Probably not horror, though. Just not my thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in everything too. I think one thing that I'm not into, and I remember my mom. My mom was a huge reader, but my mom would read those romance books, with the guys who look like Fabio on the cover, with the wavy hair and the muscles, hugging a woman. Those books.
You're not gonna read those.
Yeah, she would get those every week at Walmart. I couldn't read those. Those I can't read.
Although he might just in memory of his mom, right?
Yeah, I would read one. Like I remember when I was in grammar school and middle school, all the girls were reading these Sweet Valley High books, and I was like, "What is this all about?" So I just got a Sweet Valley High book to read it. just to see it, you know, and I didn't get into them, but it's like, well, okay, now I know what all the hubbub is about, but it's not my go-to.
You know, I was not. I'm a little bit too old for Sweet Valley High and the Babysitters Club. I was older by the time those became really popular, I think. But yeah, I remember those. I remember that. But all right. So, and the Harlequins, yes, I never liked Harlequin romances. Those seemed quite cheesy based on the cover, but they did have at one point a series, and it was romance, and I think it was from Harlequin, but it was I remember it being Christian based, and there was a time where I would read those quite a bit. But anyway, here we go. Let's see. Favorite themes and devices to find in books.
You know, for me, I sort of like to look at the culture that the author was experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, when I read like either Hemingway or Langston Hughes or Richard Wright, it's amazing to see the common things that these authors were doing minus technology.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love seeing them like do simple things like go to the coffee shop and read the newspaper. And those simple things that they do when they talk about, you know, having dinner at somebody's house, or they talk about going on a trip, or they're at a bar with somebody. Those kind of everyday common things that, you know, the common person does,
Mm-hmm.
you know, are really things that stick out to me.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that themes, that they're really related.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, in the 1800s, people are writing about going to a coffee shop, reading the newspaper, and hanging out with friends over a nice meal.
Mm-hmm.
Today, hundreds of years later, we go to coffee shops, we read the newspapers, we hang out with friends.
Mm-hmm.
And to see that even though technology's changed, careers have changed, there's still that sort of theme of, you know, somebody going out to work every day, somebody building community, and to see the commonness of that is really encouraging. Seeing characters overcome things in books is always good for me. Like I love the inspirational aspects of it. I love memoirs. I love reading memoirs, and sometimes even the most tragic memoirs, I love them. I love reading them. I love reading memoirs from, you know, people from other countries. Always are fascinating. You know, people from Islamic countries, people who have gone through like the immigration struggle. It just really builds empathy, and to see the world from their eyes and not have this sort of American lens of seeing things. That really is fascinating to me.
Yeah, I like that too. I like any kind of a book that's going to take you outside of your own experience. So, for instance, I absolutely loved Abraham Verghese and The Covenant of Water and Cutting for Stone, because they were set in Africa, in India. It was set in a time period that I don't know a lot about, and in those countries, I love if a book is going to teach me. Even fiction can teach you, right? You can learn about what goes on in other cultures, and so I thoroughly enjoy that. It's the same reason why really the most successful reality shows are usually shows that give you a peek inside the window into a world that is not normally, you don't know anything about it. And so the draw to some of that is just the opportunity to see something that you don't know. So I love that. I also love, you know, to see the underdog come back and win. I like that kind of thing. I like lyrical writing. I enjoy that. I enjoy a beautiful turn of phrase. I always have. One of the things that Little Women is still my favorite book, and they don't look anything like me, right? I don't have anything really in common with the March sisters. However, I love the way Louisa May Alcott wrote, and I remember specifically there's a scene where and I was in high school the first time I finished this book, and there's a scene where Amy, the youngest sister, and Laurie, the boy next door, when they finally get together, there's a scene where they kiss. But the way Louisa May Alcott wrote it is that she never writes that they actually kiss. And so the author, the creativity and the talent and the artistry that the author can sometimes have in the way that they describe things, how she got the message across, but she never said they kissed. And that made sense for the time in which she was writing. Right now, all bets are off. You can write about anything and say anything in a book. Back then, she probably wouldn't even been able to get it published, barely, even just being female. But I remember reading that, and I'm the type of person, I was this type of person. When I was into a book, I wanted to share it with everybody. That's why book clubs work for me. That's why Booktube works for me. I want to talk about books. I want to talk about the stories that I have read. And I used to make people listen. I was in high school. I was that person. I would read a book and I would make people listen. But I specifically remember, and thank God for them who did listen to me, because I'm sure that I probably got on their nerves. But anyway, I remember reading that portion in Little Women and being so stunned that she could describe that scene without saying they kiss. The more of the, what is it called? Showing, not telling. And I remember I would I gotta read this to you. I would make my friends and my sister and all, and they were willing. They listened. They just indulged me, I'm sure. But anyway, those are the types of things that I like, and I think that is actually the last question of the Booktube Newbie Tag. So I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I hope you got to know us a little bit better. These questions are going to be in the description box below. Pick one of them and answer it in the comments. Tell us what you like to read. Tell us why you like to read. Tell us, just answer one of the questions. If you can answer all of them if you want to, but pick one at least and comment down below with your answers. We would love to get to know you guys as hopefully you are getting to know us.
Yeah. We answer back too. We're not putting a robo-generated response. It's legitimately us who write back to people.
Absolutely. Wait, we're not that big, so we can answer.
Yes.
One day maybe we'll get that big, but we'll still be answering, guys. It might just take us longer, but we will answer. So anyway, that's it. That's all. And I guess we will see you the next time. We'll talk more about what we read in August, what I finished in August, and what we are currently reading in the next video. Until we see you guys again, peace.
Bye-bye.